Ages ago, ancient sages transmitted to humankind an essential piece of wisdom, the nature of God, which is the same as the nature of your true self, or self with a capital S. They described it as Sat-Chit-Ananda, or being consciousness bliss. God is what these ancient sages called Brahman, which has nothing to do with how people typically conceptualize God. There's no white man in the sky with a long white beard somewhere over there ruling over our lives. That is a huge misconception. God can be said to be the formless consciousness. And because consciousness is, it is Sat, or being. Because it is obviously conscious, it is Chit. And because it is limitless, whole, as it doesn't have any boundaries or limitations, it is Ananda, limitlessly blissful. These are not three separate elements, but the same nature being recognized through different angles of emphasis. Like saying the nature of pure water is liquid, fluid, and transparent. In the teachings of the Tree of Liberation, surrendering to being is Sat, presence is Chit, and the heart is Ananda. Now, our essential nature is not different than God's or Brahman's nature. So by realizing what these ancient sages called Atman, or true nature, or self, you realize your non-separateness with God, with the whole, with pure formless consciousness. However, in many modern spiritual teachings, your true nature, or self, is usually described as awareness, or Chit only, though it is implied that to be conscious, you have to be, which means Sat is also included. It is Ananda which is often left aside, or merely said to be peace, because to actually experience Ananda, you must, to a greater or less extent, bring insight from the background to the foreground of experience. Of course, this is a way of saying because there's really no background-foreground separation, but it's a good pointer for now. It's about bringing the fragrance of awareness into our foreground manifested recognition. The convergence of these three elements leads you to the I Am state. This is the experience of subjectivity through the heart of awareness, just blissful self-knowing being. Through abidance in I Am, you start to sense the possibility of truly transcending the ego, truly transcending suffering. As you settle deeper and deeper into your blissful being, you witness the web and flow of mental or emotional content with detachment, knowing that anything you perceive cannot be truly who you are. This is not enlightenment, but it gives you a greater sense of freedom and weightlessness. Consciousness doesn't have to identify with personal dramas, with narratives, with carousels of thoughts and emotions that typically define human beings. It can be free from all of that. It is free from all of that. You are free from all of that, and I Am is the key for that. As your journey in the I Am deepens, a natural quietness and well-being begins to emerge in you. It's as if you are settling deeper and deeper into yourself, discovering a dimension which has always been there, yet was obscured by the relentless stream of thoughts, afflictive emotions, and distractions. The more you inhabit this space, the clearer everything becomes. You start to become alive. Merely being born is not enough. It does not guarantee a life truly lived. Many simply exist, fading gradually without ever realizing it. From the moment of birth, what unfolds is often not a life, but a prolonged demise, a subtle yet unnoticed slipping away. It is rare to encounter someone truly alive. Are you truly alive? Remember to ask yourself that question. This dimension that is opening to you, the I Am, can also be called the blissful awareness of being. In the ancient tradition of Sanatana Dharma, now known as Hinduism, terms such as Atman or Brahman are imbued with a sense of sacredness, a sense of sacred commitment, of devotion. In these words, unlike their more secular cousins such as awareness, consciousness, or even self, They carry a slightly different vibration, so to speak. They seem more intimate. Sanskrit is a spiritually richer language, and these words have not been polluted as much because they're not used in mundane settings. Additionally, in some languages, the word self doesn't even exist. In others, there's no difference between the words consciousness and conscience, for example, which is a word with its own moral undertones and has nothing to do with consciousness in this context. If I were to say, embrace your soul and achieve oneness with God, this could appeal and inspire some, but it could be very unsettling for others. Backgrounds do matter. Language and cultural context can add or remove layers of depth and meaning, and they can easily be lost in translation. Nowadays, modernizing our approach and understanding to spirituality, to enlightenment, liberation, and non-duality is a beautiful thing because it enhances their accessibility, it enhances their efficiency, but we must never lose the richness. Otherwise, it's like we're draining the flavor of a dish by removing the seasoning. That's why in the Tree of Liberation, both surrender and heart are integrated with presence. This is what leads to the I Am and to its maturation into the natural state, Sahaja Samadhi. You are the microcosmic being consciousness bliss, and continuously recognizing that is the sadhana. Eventually, effortless abidance in the I Am begins to shake the foundations of your personal self-concept, breaking your illusory belief structure of being a limited, prone to suffering body-mind that eventually perishes. Establishing yourself in the natural state is the full embodiment of I Am. Now, imagine that you are living in a palace devoid of sunlight, with no windows at all. Although the sun is shining brightly outside, it is kind of dark inside. Yes, there are some fluorescent lights here and there, but you have no idea about the existence of the sun or even its light, which is just right outside of the walls. This palace is built from your identification with the body-mind. It is made of false self stuff. The floors are made of your belief systems, the ceiling of your self-concepts, and the very foundations of the palace is made of your karmic imprints, unresolved issues, and unfulfilled desires. The external walls, those that separate you from the outside world, are built from illusions, vasanas, conditioning, and deep-rooted impressions. They are so dense that they block all the sunlight from entering into the palace. Not only that, but imagine even further that this palace is like a maze inside. It keeps you moving in endless loops, accomplishing very little. You actually designed it this way so that you could never come close to the walls, fearful of discovering any cracks on those walls that may reveal the edges of your known world. To even come close to the outside walls, you seem to have to go through countless shadowy corridors or halls. These walls are like your perceived boundaries, your perceived limitations. These dark corridors are scary, and the ego rationalizes why there's no need to step beyond this nice little bubble you have created for yourself. When something happens in life that seems to pull you closer to the edge of the known, you step back and you don't want to look. You prefer to go back to the soul-draining, artificial fluorescence of your windowless life. Or do you? Or is it the ego's desire to do so and not so much yours? After all, you're watching this video, listening to this teaching. That means something. Your true nature of flight is just on the other side of these walls. In fact, it is already where you are. There are no real walls. They're just a very convincing mirage. This palace is but a prison and has always been a mirage and an illusion. Humans are afraid of breaking free from it because that's a life they've known their whole lives. See how procrastination, laziness, excuses, and lethargic habitual patterns always find a way to creep up. Maya will not give you any room. It will not give you any space. If you are waiting for the perfect moment to start, the perfect moment to go deeper, you'll be waiting forever because that moment, the perfect moment, never seems to be now. It always seems to be in the future. But the future never arrives. The moment is always now, always today. The future exists only as a concept, a thought that lives in the mind. To be authentically self-realized, you need not just to break, but to completely shatter those illusory walls, the body-mind identification. You need to completely shatter the very notion of a limited self from every strand of DNA within your existence. By authentic self-realization, I don't mean just recognizing your essential nature in an enlightenment experience or a sort of awakening where the illusory walls momentarily lose their opacity and then the sunlight just floods into the palace, only for those walls to solidify later on once again and for you to default back to your bound body-mind identification walls type of state. I also don't mean installing windows in the palace to let the sunlight in while still remaining enclosed by the mirage-like walls. That's a good start, but it's not enough. I don't even mean a state where you fluctuate between experientially knowing the mirage-like nature of those walls and believing them to still be there, as if you had removed virtual reality goggles to glimpse reality, only to succumb once again to subconscious habitual patterns that just snatch the goggles back over your eyes. What I mean is a complete obliteration of this illusion once and for all, leaving unmistakably, no possibility for these mirage-like walls to ever reassemble, not even for a second. Now, after going through this whole parallel process of abiding in the I am, while clearing away that which prevents you from being there the whole time, you finally establish yourself in the natural state. At last, you've realized your nature, your home, which is being, awareness, and bliss, stillness in joyful motion, or dancing delightfully in harmony. These are good descriptions. Your whole world is the happy self-knowing being of awareness. It is undeniable, palpably real, profoundly satisfying. But your personal dimension is still in it. It is only in the universal state that you truly go beyond and become fully self-realized, embodying that profound realization in your whole multidimensional being. In fact, the very idea of doership has been surrendered and you appear to have vanished. You could call it selfless self. It's not selflessness, but universal impersonality, because your self is pure awareness. You represent the whole. The feeling of being confined to the body, of having boundaries, of being localized, begins to disappear until it's gone. You've never been a spatial temporal entity separate or even one with the whole. You've always been the whole. And self-realization? Self-realization has always been your universal birthright. Take it.